After a young woman is transformed by a spell, she befriends a powerful wizard who is being forced to fight in a brutal war. Join us as we discuss the death of network TV, One Direction's important lesson, and Wallace and Gromit's real curse. Then we find out if Howl's moving castle stands the test of time.
Test of time, James and Alan have their say. Do the movies you love still hold up today? James says gladiator with a glutton. Alan says as a father, blah blah. It's the test of time, James and Alan have their say. Do the movies you love still hold up today? Test of time, James and Alan have their say. Do the movies you love still hold up today?
Hello everyone and welcome to the Test of Time. I'm James Brief, and this podcast and none of these episodes would be possible without AI. Oh wait, I read that wrong. That's without Al. Al and Noah are my co-host and director.
I mean, did AI write that joke for you?
No, I wrote that joke myself.
Oh, okay, you should have said AI wrote it.
Oh, damn it. Well, because we do a podcast called The Test of Time, I have to start wondering, are we starting to see some of the nails in the coffin of broadcast television? Because there was a major announcement that the Oscars, the Academy Awards, usually one of the highest rated television events of the year, is going to go to YouTube starting in 2029.
I saw that. I think it's interesting. I don't know if that necessarily means that network TV is dying. I mean, it's been dying for a long time. Its influence has diminished with the rise of streamers, but it is still the way that a lot of people watch TV. I should have looked this up, but there's some stat that there's large portions of the country that don't have high-speed internet, and we in our coastal elite bubble, we take it for granted that everyone has high-speed internet and streaming on their phone and on 12 devices in their house. But I don't think that's true everywhere.
I cannot name a sitcom that's come on the last 5 years that's not Abbott Elementary. Can you? You can go Fox, CBS, NBC, or ABC. I'll even give you CW if you name a single show that has come on in the last 5 years.
I can't. To be fair, I was falling out of love with the content on the networks before we cut the cord, before we moved to streamers. I still watch The Simpsons every week. I watch it on Hulu. To your point, that's not a new show, obviously, quite the opposite. But network television shows, I don't find them appealing, but right. People do.
I just think that once they lose the broadcast rights to sports, and if the NFL, if they can get more money from Netflix, they're going to go immediately. I mean, Amazon Prime already has Thursday Night Football. Like, QVC is still a thing, but it's just not a thing that it used to be. I mean, have you ever seen one of these ratings from 1985? Something that came in 30th place was getting 10 million viewers. And today, 10 million viewers, oh my God, you're number one.
Well, right. But I mean, for the Oscars, the ratings on the Oscars have been going down. But the ratings for everything has been going down because fewer people are watching shows on network television. This is a significant change, certainly. I don't know if it's the final nails in the coffin, but it's sure as shit not a great sign.
I absolutely asked the wrong question. It's not the final nail. The final nail in the coffin is when football leaves the networks. That's what I think. I think the stab for the jugular, that's going to be when NFL is gone.
Talking about football makes me think of my friend Matt. He owns a bar. All of the sports at the bar are on TV. He has to have a cable package in the bar because that's the only way he can get the NFL, but also baseball and hockey and college basketball and all of the things. So in a place like that, you have to have TV. And honestly, I don't watch football, but watching baseball on streaming is a colossal pain in the fucking ass. I have the Mets ticket plan. It includes MLB TV, MLB TV blocks out the local games, so I can't watch the Mets game unless it happens to be streaming on Prime or Hulu on whatever night. It's so goddamn annoying. If that becomes easier, and if it becomes easier than network TV, yeah, that'll be a much different thing than just losing the Oscars.
Yeah, I have the NFL ticket, and I can't watch a Jets game on Sunday, so I have to switch from the HDMI that has streaming to live TV, and then I can watch the local one because I have to turn on the antenna.
Maybe that's for the best if you're not watching the Jets game. Honestly, do you really need to see it? They lose.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. But let's talk about Howl's Moving Castle. We watched Spirited Away, I think it was last year, and we both really liked it, and we said we wanted to watch more Miyazaki movies.
I had researched what is the best introduction, and I put it on Reddit. We watched Spirited Away in April of 2024, and it was overwhelmingly, it was almost split down the middle. Spirited Away or Howl's Moving Castle are the ones to watch first.
Oh, okay. For anyone who hasn't seen Howl's Moving Castle, it is about Sophie, a shy young hat maker who's cursed by the Witch of the Waste and transformed into an old woman. Fleeing her village, Sophie meets a scarecrow, Turniphead, who helps her inside the wandering mechanical castle of Howl, a powerful but insecure wizard rumored to steal hearts. Inside the castle, she befriends Markle, a young apprentice, and Calcifer, a fire demon who has to power the castle through a mysterious contract with Howl. Meanwhile, a senseless war escalates between neighboring kingdoms. Sophie realizes that unless the cycle of war and spellcasting is broken, Howl will permanently become a monster. Sophie confronts Madame Solomon, who has been orchestrating the war and who takes away the Witch of the Waste's powers. The witch, who is in love with Howl, steals his heart from Calcifer. Sophie returns the heart to Howl, which gives him back his humanity, frees Calcifer, and breaks Sophie's curse. She then kisses Turniphead, which breaks his curse, and he is revealed to be the prince whose kidnapping started the war. Solomon ends the war, and Howl and Sophie fly off in a rebuilt moving castle. So how did this movie do when it first came out, James?
It came out in America. It came out on it came out on June 10th, 2005. It actually didn't do that great here. It opened up at number 14. It opened at $400,000 and it wound up making $5 million in America. It made $235 million worldwide.
Wow.
It made $190 million of that in Japan.
Okay, that makes sense.
At the time of its opening, this was the third most successful film in box office history in Japan. Can you name the other two?
Godzilla movies?
No, it's Spirited Away.
Okay.
And Titanic.
Oh, okay.
No one was immune from Titanic.
Interesting. You said 2005. IMDb says it came out in 2004. I'm assuming that's when it was released in Japan. But it's not surprising that you say it made far less money in the States. Miyazaki made this movie because of how he felt about the Iraq War. And he is an ardent pacifist, and he wanted to make a movie that he felt would be hated by American audiences because it was going to be so anti-war. It's based on a book also called Howl's Moving Castle. And apparently there's many changes between the book and the movie. But arguably the biggest is that in the book, the war is mentioned in passing, but it is not a main focus of the story. And it is a huge focus of the story here. And there are plenty of anti-war movies that show the horrors of war and the futility of war. And this movie definitely checks all of those boxes. I feel like this movie is also pro-peace. And what I mean by that is there are no consequences. There's no comeuppance. Like Madame Solomon, she is the one who's orchestrating the war. And at the end of the movie, she just decides, okay, the war is over. And that's it. There's no punishment. She's not carted away for her horrific crimes. There's no retribution. You feel like that has to happen. Like the bad guy has to be punished, right? That's like movie rules 101. And this movie just doesn't do that. Madame Solomon is not the villain. You think the Witch of the Waste is the villain. She's not the villain. Really, the villain of the story is war itself.
She is kind of rewarded for making peace. She says, let's stop this senseless war. Contact the prime minister and we'll end it, because she gets her son back.
Was it her son, or is that the son from the neighboring kingdom?
Whoever, the son is back, and now they have a reason to stop the war. It's interesting you say that, because in a Western film or a conventional film, the only reason why you'd survive that is Darth Vader survives in Star Wars because it's episode 4. So we got to have sequels to find out what happens. So I think it's more what you said correctly, that it's more rewarded for making the peace rather than she still has to be punished for doing what she did.
Also, with the Witch of the Waste, when Sophie encounters the Witch of the Waste and they're going up the stairs, at first I was thinking it was a race up the stairs to go to see the king, and Sophie is going ahead. She should just run in. And she's kind of waiting at the steps for the Witch of the Waste. And then I thought, oh, she just wants to taunt her and watch her suffer, because the Witch of the Waste cursed Sophie for literally no reason. She is cursed because the Witch of the Waste sees Sophie with Howl, and she loves Howl and she's jealous. And so she puts this horrible curse on her, which actually turns out to not be such a horrible thing. But earlier in the movie, Sophie says, if I ever see that witch again, I'll get her, I'll spit on her, I'll punch her. I forget the exact line, but she just is there to help the Witch of the Waste. As soon as she's transformed into this really old woman who has no powers, Sophie feels bad for her. The Witch of the Waste never apologizes, never says, I shouldn't have done that, and I hope we can still be friends. Sophie just accepts her. And everything that you would expect to happen of confrontation and fighting within the context of the main characters. Of course, there's the war going on, but it's really just about compassion and grace and forgiveness and just, okay, yeah, you cursed me, but hey, now we're friends.
You know, something that really stood out to me, I was not expecting big names, but there were fantastic A-listers in this film.
I was surprised hearing Billy Crystal's voice.
Yes, and Billy Crystal actually, he has only done one other animated film. He's only done the Monsters franchise.
Well, that's two movies.
Yeah, the Monsters franchise. He's only done 2 things ever. And Billy Crystal is so funny, and he's got a great voice. It's actually shocking he's only done 2 things, because he is great at this.
Yeah, he could definitely do more if he wanted to. And all actors say it's the best gig. You show up in your pajamas, record a couple lines for a couple hours or a day or 2, and then get a paycheck and you're done.
Exactly. And you got Blythe Danner, you've got Christian Bale and Gene Simmons, Lauren Bacall, Josh Hutcherson, PETA in the Hunger Games, and a lot of other films.
Jenna Malone's also in the Hunger Games. Apparently Christian Bale was just such a big fan of Miyazaki that he asked to be cast in any movie, in any role, in any capacity, and then he got the title role. The voice acting is amazing. The visuals are stunning. I love the steampunk aesthetic of this movie. The castle is just so intricate, and watching it walk around on those legs is really, really fun. I did feel a little disappointed that we don't see much of the inside of that big giant castle. We see only a couple of rooms, and it looks like there's 1,000 rooms. Like when you see it walking across the countryside, it seems like there's so much to explore inside, and we really don't. That was a little bit of a bummer for me.
You know, not a bummer, but I thought the movie would be more about the castle.
Yeah.
I thought it would take place in the castle.
Right.
But it doesn't. It's a setting, and the settings inside the castle are actually not particularly interesting.
Right.
The characters in there, Calcifer, he's very interesting, but he could be anywhere, really. I mean, he can't exist outside of the castle.
Yeah, the characters are interesting. Calcifer is fascinating. I was confused if Calcifer is Howl's heart, or if he's the shooting star that then possesses Howl's heart and then is the guardian of the heart. But I couldn't tell if he was literally Howl's heart. I also don't know if it really matters.
I don't think it matters. I was definitely confused by some of these curses, but what I really loved in this film, the visual depictions of nature in this film.
Yeah.
Probably the shot, I can just mention it and you'll know what I'm talking about. It looks like just little perfectly green with flower islands with water flowing between it. And when we're looking on this countryside, it's just absolutely spectacular. And there's a part where there's kind of these, I don't know what you call them, spirits or something that are floating around, and they're just basically some simple little colored rainbow balls that are floating around. It's quite a kind of simple animation. I believe it's hand drawn. I don't know if it is.
Everything was hand drawn and then digitized.
Oh, okay. Because there's just this raw look to it, like rotoscoping or something. It kind of reminds me of that it's definitely not a pure CGI thing.
No.
And it really looks like when they're doing some of these nature shots, they don't exist, but they're based on other places that they, embellished.
I think I read that Miyazaki traveled to France for inspiration on some of the landscapes. The nature landscapes there in stark contrast to the war and the fighting and the bombs and the darkness in this movie. That is a very deliberate choice to contrast war and peace, nature versus machines. The battleships that we see, they're fantastical. They have propellers that are kind of wings, and the bombs are kind of alive. This is a magical world, but that is a recurring theme in Miyazaki's movies, that technology is bad and nature is good.
The technology is just this steampunk aesthetic, but I love that you don't really know if this thing takes place in the past or the distant future.
I think it's a magical world. I don't think it's the real world. But it is also familiar in some details, like the hat shop and beautiful grass and flowers and things, but also in the world that we live in now, that Miyazaki was commenting on then, about a world at war where these wars are just happening. The kidnapped prince it's kind of a throwaway line until it comes back at the end about Turnip Head. There's a line where Sophie says to Howl when they see a ship approaching, is that one of ours or is that the enemy? And Howl says, what difference does it make? There's a line with Suleiman when they say that they had cast a spell to protect the castle so that none of the bombs would hit the castle. But unfortunately, that means that all the bombs hit the residential homes near the castle. And that's not good either. So even though it's a magical world, it is touching on real world things that do feel familiar.
Something I really liked in this film was the depiction of the elderly. I don't think you can't make good, funny jokes about like the elderly and about aging, but low-hanging fruit stuff is, oh, my hips hurt and I can't do anything anymore. Sophie starts out, she goes from this teenager, 20-year-old or something, and then she turns into like a 90-year-old woman, and she has a back hump and she's slouched over. And in the beginning, she's complaining about how awful it is to be old. And did you notice when she first gets to Howl's Moving Castle, she's able to run on. Yeah. And there's limitations because she's older, but she's smarter than her years, than her 18 or so years that the young Sophie would have been. And I like the depiction at the end. I kind of like how also at the end she kind of keeps her silver hair. She's younger again now. The curse is broken, but this is me now.
She takes to being old very, very quickly. You might call that she was an old soul. Yeah, she talks about how when you're old, sometimes you just want to sit and look at a fire. When you're old, sometimes you just want to sit and look at nature. She says that, she doesn't have to worry about certain things anymore. And she just feels very at peace with being old. Also, then you have the Witch of the Waste, who after she loses her powers, she becomes very old. Post that transformation, the Witch of the Waste sometimes is kind of selfish, when she grabs Howl's heart out of Calcifer because she wants it. So she's doing something that's selfish and destructive, but then Sophie says you have to give it back, and she does. And so the movie doesn't just go in one direction or the other about old ladies are always sweet and kind, or that they're always bitter and mean. They're complicated characters. Because of course they are. That seems so obvious, and it is. But you don't always see that in movies. And Sophie is cursed, and she becomes this old woman, and then she kind of slips back into her younger form throughout the movie. It happens a few times. Like when she's defending Howl to the queen, she becomes young for a little bit. When he wanders back into the castle and he looks awful, she tells him that she loves him, and then she's young, and then he kind of rejects her, and then she's old again. So there is some flexibility on the curse, and it does seem like when she is really, truly confident and she's feeling loved or happy with who she is, she does revert back to her younger self. This is a nitpick, and I fully admit that. I think the movie could have ended without the spell being broken and with her just being an older woman and Howl still falling in love with her and them being together despite the fact that she's an old lady. I could see why that could turn off some audiences, but I do think that the movie is really about her finding beauty in who she is, and it kind of doesn't matter if she's in the old person body or the young person body.
Does that mean she's going to die soon? Like this poor
Right.
girl only gets to live, 18 plus 6 months instead of 95 years.
Sure.
I think it's fair that she did get reverted back to her original form.
That makes sense. Kind of speaking of how she looks, vanity and appearance are also big themes in this movie. Sophie cleans up in Howl's bathroom and she moves the potions around, and then Howl basically throws a temper tantrum because his hair is the wrong color, and he says that if he's not beautiful, he doesn't see any reason for living. And it's like, dude, you're a good looking guy, whatever, calm down. But he's throwing a fit. And this movie comes out when social media is in its infancy. And of course, people still cared about their appearance in the early 2000s and long, long before, obviously. But thinking about it in the lens of social media, where everything is about how you look and how you present yourself to the world, I mean, I think these themes still are powerful. A lot of people really care about how they look and how the world views them. There's a line very early in the movie when Sophie doesn't want to go out with the other women who work at the hat store, and they're telling the story about Howl and how he steals the hearts of women, and you better be careful. And one woman says, well, you don't have to worry about it because he only goes after beautiful women. Ha 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 ha. And then Sophie thinks she's safe because she doesn't consider herself beautiful. She thinks she's plain looking. So she's in no danger of Howl coming to her and stealing her heart.
Had she only listened to one direction, you don't know you're beautiful. That's what makes you beautiful.
Indeed. And, Howl is this handsome man. He's also this monstrous bird creature sometimes, and he's able to transform back and forth. But Calcifer is worried that if he keeps transforming into the bird thing, he might not be able to ever come back. Howl says that some of the wizards who have turned themselves into war machines, when the war ends, they're not going to remember that they were human. And so there is that idea of who you are and what you are, how you look, how you feel. Howl has these different aliases, Pendergrast and someone else, I forget the other name, but he has all of these identities and all of these ways that he presents himself. It's interesting how the movie explores these ideas of identity and personality and transformation in a movie that also really explores the horrors of war. This is ostensibly a kid's movie, and it's dealing with some pretty heady topics.
This film is animated, but it doesn't have to be. I mean, it'd be hard to build Howl's Moving Castle without CGI at least, but it's a film that happens to be animated. Calcifer's adorable, and some of the other characters are adorable. Kids can like this, but it's very adult themed.
Sure. And I see why kids would like it, even though they might not fully get all of the metaphors, the spinning wheel on the door that depending on the color, it goes to a different place. And yeah, maybe a 6-year-old is just going to think, that's so cool. The door goes to lots of different places, and maybe not think, oh, I wonder if that spinning wheel represents the 4 different aspects of Howl's personality. Because of course not. I don't really know much of Miyazaki's work. I've only seen this movie and Spirited Away, but he certainly strikes me as the kind of person who wants to make entertainment for kids that is challenging and also not off-putting, which is a fine line, man. That is tough. But I can see why kids would love this and why parents would walk out of the theater being like, well, that just blew my mind.
It's like you said, there's rules of movies or animated movies or other things that it's like he didn't read that rule book and it doesn't matter.
No, I think he did read that rule book and said, fuck that.
Right. Or he had done something like that, right?
Even though some of the plot mechanics with the heart and everything were hard to understand, what I do think is clear to me and what I assume would be clear to a child is that Howl doesn't have his heart. And that's why he's able to do the war stuff. That's why he's able to be this bird. But he's losing his humanity. He says that he's hiding, and all of the things he does is out of fear because he doesn't want to be found by other people. And he gave his heart to a woman who we assume is the Witch of the Waste because he thought she was beautiful, but she wasn't. And so the Witch of the Waste wants his heart, and she can grab it, but she can't really have it because Howl doesn't love her. Howl loves Sophie. And Sophie is Turnip Head's one true love, apparently, because at the end of the movie, she kisses him and that breaks the curse. The one true love breaks the curse. And it's like, well, this is kind of awkward because she's not your true love. And the prince who was Turnip says, okay, well, whatever. When Sophie puts the heart back in Howl and he says, oh, it feels so heavy. And she says, well, a heart is a heavy burden to bear. Like, yeah, humanity, feelings, love, this is a lot, but you need it because otherwise you'll just turn into a monster. And I think that even if some of the mechanics are confusing or maybe a little too fantastical, it all just works.
I don't know. Have you seen many anime films other than Spirited Away and anything else?
No.
I don't have like a Crunchyroll subscription, but I've seen some, and sometimes I don't quite understand everything. We get that theme that you said at the end. He doesn't have a heart, and he is kind of a cold character until he gets his heart at the end. You know, kind of a Wizard of Oz thing. Well, actually the opposite. He already has his heart the whole time.
Right.
But in this case, yes, he actually does get his heart at the end, and he is a different person.
Right. This movie also has the theme of found family. Before Sophie arrives, it's Howl, Markle, and Calcifer. And then Sophie shows up, and then she goes to meet the king, and she meets Solomon, and then she comes back with the Witch of the Waste, and Heen, that's the dog, and then Turnip Head kind of joins them, and Howl says something about, oh, our family just keeps growing. That's kind of a theme in Lilo and Stitch, which we watched not that long ago. You just encounter people, and I guess in this movie, creatures, and you kind of just bond. You know, we don't get a ton of Sophie's real family. We see that she has her sister who seems to care about her and wants her to not just work in the hat shop because that's what their dead dad wanted. But is that what you want, Sophie? So she seems to be a caring sister. The mom shows up and she fucking sucks because she completely sells out Sophie to Solomon. Also, she announces that she got married while she was away on a work trip. Oh, by the way, I married a rich guy, so pretty cool, huh? Anyway, see you later. And she sold her out to Solomon, so that's pretty fucking awful. But she has this new family with Howl and Markle and Calcifer, and it's beautiful. It's a beautiful family that they find throughout this adventure.
It's a growing and interesting different characters. There's no kind of repetitive duplicate characters here. I love the part where they're sliding down the mountain out of control, and then the scarecrow, Turnip Head, he shows up and he's able to use his stick to kind of make like a break.
Right.
And he kind of sacrifices himself because his stick snaps. And then there's this really cute little animation where the sled they're on kind of flips around, and because of Turnip Head, they're able to survive. I really love that scene. And Turnip Head is, I don't want to say underutilized. I think he's in the film very little, but a perfect amount. He comes and goes in the film, and I really like him. He's one of my favorite characters.
I mean, he doesn't say anything, right?
No, he doesn't, but he doesn't have to. He's a nonverbal character. I mean, my favorite character, I think, it's Calcifer is the best character. I think he's just Billy Crystal is just great at it because he's able to turn on the comedic and then the serious parts too.
I love Calcifer's line when Sophie's trying to encourage him, and she says, "They say that the blaze burns brightest when circumstances are at their worst." And Calcifer says, yeah, but no one really believes that. And I mean, it's Billy Crystal's delivery, and it's a funny line. There's also the element that Calcifer can't describe his curse to Sophie, and Sophie can't describe her curse that the Witch of the Waste put on her. I feel like that was a kind of convenient plot mechanic, because that way, you can't just do exposition and get these things out of the way, and you have to find these things out. Whatever. I mean, that's kind of a nitpick. That also then leads to time travel. I was kind of surprised by that scene when Sophie goes back in time and encounters young Howl and sees Howl encounter Calcifer for the first time. And she says, "This is Sophie, find me in the future." The first thing that Howl says to Sophie in the beginning of the movie. Do you remember what he says?
No.
He says, "Oh, there you are. I've been looking everywhere for you."
Ah, very nice, very nice.
So it kind of all comes back together. He's been looking for her since he was a kid.
Yeah, I like that. I thought it was just going to be more of she's looking into the past. And I thought maybe she's not quite there. Maybe she's a spirit. And then no, she actually is able to talk to him. I thought that scene was, like you said, totally unexpected and really nice.
Yes. But James, what do you think about Howl's Moving Castle as a whole? Do you think the movie stands the test of time?
I think this film is brilliant, beautiful, but it is not necessarily a very easy film. Like you said, your 5-year-old is probably going to laugh at Turnip Head and Calcifer, and people might think that some of the people are handsome and beautiful, and the dog is cute. Oh, I love that dog.
So cute.
Very, very cute. It's not a criticism, because it's not a criticism that this is not made for necessarily for young children specifically. That being said, it's just an absolutely gorgeous film. It won all the awards it could win that year, and it deserved it.
It didn't win Best Animated Feature.
Yeah, interestingly, it did not.
It lost to Wallace and Gromit.
Yeah, Curse of the Were-Rabbit. And I specifically remember watching that. I am a huge Wallace and Gromit fan. Curse of the Were-Rabbit was good, but seeing this, maybe everyone didn't watch Howl's Moving Castle, because I think this film overall, in terms of the Oscars and the way the Oscars are something that's kind of pretentious, I think that this is more appropriate to win Best Animated Feature. I haven't seen Curse of the Were-Rabbit in years, but I remember it being a very fun film. That kids could love that stuff, and fun bunny rabbits that are vampires or werewolves. This film does stand the test of time, and I think way more than the Curse of the Were-Rabbit. People are talking about this film a lot more today. This is a masterpiece, and yes, stand the test of time. What is your opinion now? Does this film stand the test of time?
Before I answer that question, would you say that Wallace and Gromit's Oscar win is the real curse? So it's like the curse of the Were-Rabbit?
That's not a funny joke.
It was a funnier joke than your AI joke. Bringing it all full circle. Yes, I think that Howl's Moving Castle definitely stands the test of time. I think this is a beautiful movie. I think this is a movie that is just chock full of ideas and things to think about, just to really ponder. This is an anti-war movie that I think is really powerful, that makes a really, really clear case for wars being not just awful, but pointless, just pointless. The prince was kidnapped and turned into a turnip head, and all of these bombs are going off everywhere, and these ships are being destroyed, and all of these lives are upended because one guy got turned into a turnip. I mean, it's meant to be silly because of the context of the movie, but it's batshit. It's all just batshit. And what this movie is saying about found families and identity and appearance and the value that you place on yourself because of how you look, and the value that other people place on you because of how you look, and the value that you think other people place on you because of how you look. I mean, it can make your head spin talking about all of this stuff. Someone much smarter than you or I could write a PhD dissertation about everything in this movie and all of the things that this movie is trying to say, and that I would argue says pretty well. I think you get the main points and what this movie is trying to say about war is dumb and beauty's in the eye of the beholder, and the family that you find can be just as important or more so than the family that you're born into. These are big ideas, and they are presented in a movie that has a talking fire and a turnip scarecrow that bounces around. Like, that's really fucking impressive. I am blown away by this movie. I think it absolutely stands the test of time. It's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. But that's going to do it for us this week. Next week, we have a special guest joining us. Darren from Board Games Are for Losers is coming back on the show to talk about a movie called The Crippled Masters. He picked it, man. I don't know. This is all on Darren. I've never heard of this movie. We're going to have to ask him why he picked this movie. In the meantime, we want to hear from you. We are at Test of Time Pod, Facebook, X, Instagram, and Threads. This is episode 497. We're approaching 500. You still have time, but time's running out. If you want to send us a message for our 500th episode, send us some audio, a text message, whatever. It would mean a lot to us to have that to include in our 500th episode. And we'll see you next time, everybody.
Bye.